Hello everyone. Hello. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back if you are a current subscriber. If you're new, welcome to the channel for the first time. Sheldon is the name, and hey, the goal here is to educate and motivate. So hopefully you learn something from me, and through your comments, etc. Hopefully I can learn something from you as well, right? So I am just getting over the flu, and so my voice might crack every now and then, as it is now. So kind of excuse me with that. But today what I want to do is talk about relationships. Let's talk about relationships. And I want to specifically discuss three questions, three of them. There are more, but today we're going to focus on three. What are three questions that you need to ask someone that you're getting into or you're planning on going into a long-term relationship with? Relationships ain't no joke. We know, right? That honeymoon phase, once it wears off, sometimes relationships can take a dramatically different turn. So so I was thinking about it, and I was like, I told you I'm gonna be coughing. I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, what are three? Man, there's so many good questions to ask, but what are three of them? And so I've narrowed it down to these three. Let's get into it. The first one is, and I wrote them down. First one, what are what are your long-term goals, and how do you see a partner, right? How do you see a partner fitting into them? So what are your long-term goals, and how do you see a partner fitting into those long-term goals? First of all, you're asking that it's almost like a job interview question, but you're asking that because you want to make sure they got goals, especially if you are someone who are driven, right? Especially if you're someone you are driven, you've got things you want to accomplish in your life, there are things you're going after. You want to make sure that this person does have goals. So I think one good question to ask is, what are your long-term goals? What is it that you actually want to do beyond this point where you are right now? What are some things that you would like to do? What's a major thing you want to accomplish, right? Maybe a goal specifically, but not goals, but goals. So what is that major thing that you want to accomplish, a series of things that you want to accomplish? And I think that is good, especially if you yourself is someone who's driven, because it is in moments like that when you're both searching for ways to accomplish your goals. Those are things that could bring you together, right? You being inspired by the other person being inspired by you, and you find that in your quest for for success, for the things that each of you are trying to achieve, you find common ground, common purpose, and that would itself could invigorate your relationship a lot more. Just something to think about, but I think it's a good question to ask someone. And then obviously, as I said, you figure out, does this person have any goals? Are they realistic? All right, so that's one. All right, the next question I have is, so first one is goals, long-term goals, and how do you fit in? So I probably didn't address the fit in part enough. Where do you see me fitting into this, right? Long-term goals. Like, where do you, because if, ooh, if someone's long-term goals is if one of their long-term goals is to move to, I don't know, an entirely different country or an entirely different part of the country, how do you fit into that? You need to know, right? Is that something, how are you all going to do that? Does that mean you quitting your job and everything that you've been working? I mean, these are things that you need to know, and conversations that you need to have, so that it doesn't come back in the long run and get you, right? So anyway, how do you handle conflict and disagreements in a relationship? So what is in the past, right? Obviously they're answering in retrospect here. How have they handled conflict, or what have you noticed based on any kind of conflict that you all may have had in the relationship. How do they handle conflict? Not even say conflict, but just a disagreement. Are they the type to, okay, let's sit down and talk about it? Let's sit at the table, not necessarily the table, but you know what I mean. Let's sit down and have a conversation about something. Or are they the person to blow up and get really hot-headed or whatever the case is? What? How do they handle conflict? You need to know you're not walking into a hostile situation where at one moment you look up and you don't even recognize who you're looking at because their person is acting in such a way that you feel a little bit worried about the energy that you're getting from them when they get angry. Like it almost seems like there's room there for a high level of toxic behavior and maybe some violence. Right? You never know the situation. So how do you handle, good question to ask someone, how do you handle conflict and disagreement? Now, obviously somebody could say whatever they want to say, and eventually you are going to see pieces of who someone really is the longer you get to know them. Right? The longer the relationship goes on, you begin to see other pieces of them. Take note when you see that. And, you know, as Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. Take note when you see that sort of stuff, right? When you see glimpses of things you have not seen before since you've been in a relationship with that person, because that is also a part of who they are. It's only now coming out, because sometimes the best behavior cracks. And when the best behavior cracks, you really see who the person is. Well, you've seen who they are, I should say, but you see the other, you're beginning to see all sides of who the person is what I should say, right? As the crack emerges in the armor of good behavior, all right? In that good behavior armor, as the cracks emerge, you begin to see who the person really is, right? Pay attention to that. I'm just saying. Okay, so we got through two things. Number 3, what are your expectations regarding, this could be a whole other video. What are your expectations regarding finances, family, and personal growth? What are your expectations regarding finances, family, and personal growth? Finances. I'm gonna actually put this into a whole video by itself, but let me quickly touch on finances. Finances. Is this person good with money? Where are they planning to be financially? What changes are they planning to make to get to the place that they would like to be financially? That's key. Money is key, right? So what are their finances looking like? What are they planning to do or change to improve their finances, or whatever the case is? What does their finances look like? What is their future as far as money is concerned? That's important. Family. Do folks want kids? Right? Do folks want kids, or do they not want kids? Don't assume people want kids. Don't always assume that people want kids. Not everybody wants kids. Especially we live in a time now where we see there is a decline in the birth rate, right? Not everyone do not go into the assumption. And if they do, don't assume they want the same number of kids that you want. That's a conversation you got to have as well. That stuff causes problems also. And the next thing is personal growth. What does that look like going forward for you? Right? You got to ask them. So what are personal growth? What are things you plan on working on? You know, what are the cases you might offer what you're planning to work on? But how do they feel about continuously seeking to grow and develop as a person? good conversation to have. So those were the three. What are your long-term goals, and how do you see a partner fitting into them? How do you handle conflict and disagreements in relationships? And what are your expectations regarding finances, family, and personal growth? Three good questions that you could ask. I could have took each one of these and turned them into a video, and I probably will. But three good questions to ask someone you're planning on going into a long-term relationship with. All right. So anyway, this is it for today. And please don't forget to subscribe, share, hit the like button. Journey to 5,000. Let me know what videos you would like to see me make. What are your top three questions? Well, maybe not top three, but what would you say are three important questions that what are three questions you would ask someone if you're going into a relationship with them? Let us know. What are three questions you would ask someone before you get into a long-term relationship with them? Especially if you've had experience of being in a relationship before, what are questions that you now realize you should ask? Because sometimes you didn't know. All right. So two things I always ask at the end of every video. Please do something good. I told you I'm going to be coughing. Please do something good for someone. You do not have to be rich to give back, right? It's not always about money. And if you have, sometimes you don't have to give $1 million if you don't have it. Sometimes $1 or $2 could make a huge change. And then do something good for yourself. You know what that is. Maybe there's a situation you need to walk out of. Maybe there's a situation you need to get brave and walk into. Anyway, as I said, don't forget to share, subscribe, Journey to 5,000. Thank you for stopping by. Until next time, be good. Peace.